met John Fiala in 2004. He has been a very able and dedicated technical director for conferences. Because of him, the videos that we put out are of extremely high quality compared to those of any other conference series. John works and lives in Houston, Texas. He's got a wonderful family. I've gotten to meet most of them over the past few years, and I think without further ado, let's have John Fiala supervising our session here with our vendors.
Testing 1, 2. Well, it's not as if you guys didn't get enough of me the rest of the time. You're a very, very gracious group here. The technologies of Nikola Tesla, there's many times where we see him sitting there in the classic thought pattern, and you look in the background, and there's a 6.5-foot diameter pancake coil. And what's happening is that this was one of Nikola Tesla's therapeutic devices, and this is the way he lived his life. He was so involved with so many things that he had to have something to kind of counter and maintain the edge. The human body is an electrochemical computer with a hydrodynamic fluid hydraulic mechanical actuator system. The challenge with that is that everything in there is comprised of polar molecules. Everything in your body can be affected by electromagnetic energy. That's a good thing, and that's also a bad thing. Most of the time, the electromagnetic fields we're associated with are not challenging, especially if you live underneath the power lines. But when you go sit in front of the microwave and you stare at it, you stand on your head in the lotus position and look through your third eye at the microwave while it's running, you know what you get? A headache. You don't have a third eye. The electromagnetic energy can be a little bit challenging because the electromagnetic field, what happens is that the polar molecules themselves can align to the electromagnetic field. And some of the old challenges that they talked about with the heating blankets, when you crawled into bed, you turned that on. There's an electromagnetic field that goes with that. Some people woke up after a couple of months or a couple of years with different maladies that went away when the heating blanket or the mattress pad that was heated was no longer used. Everything in our brain, the neuron synapse that fires through the beneath the myelin sheath in your nerve cores, everything from the brainstem, the medulla oblongata, down to your fingertips and your toes are all electrochemical impulses. What happens is that under certain electromagnetic fields, you can actually disturb or inhibit those. The challenge with this is that there are some cases where individuals exposed to certain electromagnetic fields, and it used to be the cell phones that had the maximum 5 watts of output. They're in microwave energy. The problem is the antenna was right there, and it's just shining right on your brain. And we had individuals that were beginning to experience migraines. And the thing was that the electromagnetic field began to polarize the molecules, the plasma and the blood molecules, and we began to create, while they were on the phone, something akin to a vascular constriction in the capillaries of the brain, which have the smallest capillaries and blood vessels of anywhere in the body. Your facial tissues are the next closest, smallest blood vessels in the body. You get a paper cut down here, it's like sometimes you cut your hand off, and the thing doesn't even bleed. Or you cut into your leg and there's a little bit of blood, but you put some tape or some crazy glue on it and you're off like a herd of turtles. Arnold doesn't work here anymore. But you get a facial cut, and sometimes you bleed like a stuck pig. But the capillaries in the brain are significantly smaller than that. So if, like the old cell phones that were 5 watts, you could actually produce enough energy that you could polarize the molecules, draw them to one side while you're working there, or cause them to be biased or repelled, so that you created a place where there was a resistance in those capillaries to the flow of blood and oxygen to the cerebral tissue. Okay, that brings up the next thing. Cerebral tissue challenges don't necessarily occur for a lack of oxygen, but a compilation of carbon. Carbon, like you've got your classic sources of carbon that are in your basic food sources. Anytime you say oxidation, calories, burning, fire, you're doing one thing. You're taking a carbon bond and you're breaking it and releasing energy. But that carbon's bonded to something else, but when it's done, it's carbon. When you get done with the campfire, what's that black chalky stuff in the bottom of the campfire? Anybody? Carbon, trash. And if you got a fireplace, you got to take that out when you get done. Carbon in water can create a place where you can actually create a short circuit. You can actually create an electrical chain. What happens is that the brain does not cease to function for a lack of oxygen, but a compilation of carbon. Picture yourself in a accounting office. You are going to start an accounting business, and you have 3 accountants. You line their desks up the front. Okay, you hire your 3 accountants. At the end of the day, they've got a wastebasket. You hire someone to take out the trash, okay? You do so well, you get 15 accountants. Now you got 3 rows of 5 accountants there, and they're generating mounds of paper every day. All of a sudden, your helper here calls in and says, "Hey, boss, I can't make it in today. I can't be there to take out the trash. I broke my leg." Okay, the trash piles up a little bit. Next day they call in, "Hey, I can't be there today, boss. See what's happening. I got to go back to the doctor tomorrow. So I won't be in tomorrow either." Trash begin to pile up. Eventually, he calls back and says, "Hey, the doctor says I've got something very serious. I won't be in for a while." The trash begins to pile. They're wading through it. Eventually, the trash gets higher and higher if the organization continues to function, and then nothing functions. You can't get in, can't get out, everything ceases. That's a not vaguely unsimilar parallel to what happens with the neuron synapse, the electrochemical change that travel along the crystalline chains that make up your memories, okay? Now, the challenge is not that I forgot I had a bad memory, or I forgot to take my memory medication. That's a side effect of losing, having a carbon buildup or a lack of oxygen. And that's why when an EMT, when there's a challenge, somebody's unconscious, or especially a cranial injury, stroke or otherwise, that's why they give them oxygen right away. Oxygen is your friend. He's the trash man. He's like you ever see that old movie with the old saloon, the 1900s saloon, and there's 2 guys standing by the door, and this guy, grungy, whatever, comes in, turns up a few cold ones at the bar and just kind of half 3 French fries short of a Happy Meal, and starts breaking up the place. Whoops. And then later on, all of a sudden in the movie, you see these 2 guys walk over, belt and collar the guy through the plate glass window, and these 2 bouncers took out that piece of trash. Oxygen's the trash man. When this carbon begins to pile up in the brain stem, what happens is that the anatomic functions, the involuntary functions, the medulla oblongata at the base of the brain, not the cerebral or upper cerebrum or cerebellum, where the conscious and unconscious functions take place, if you just pile up here, and that little guy that's been hired that works in the office down here is sitting there, just like in a sculling contest, he's sitting there, stroke, 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 or breathe, 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 or beat, beat, beat. Those communications from the computer don't get there. He stops, and that's why you die. This is a buildup of carbon or oxygen with a lack of oxygen. And there comes a point with the carbon buildup can be so proliferous that even though the tissue and the crystalline chains that make up your memories that would fire through the normal neuron synapse, there's no way to get enough oxygen to them anymore to save them. And that's usually when they say the 4 or 5 minutes. There's another trash man. He's vitamin C. It's called an unbound Arceola C. And the best way to describe bound or unbound is like you can buy Acme brick. I have a friend one time that another neighbor was tearing down and making a modification. He took a bunch of brick out of the front of his house, and it already had mortar in it. Well, he bought that brick over there, and he had to do so much work to that brick that the brick that was normally $1.20, he paid 50 cents each for. But he ended up hiring day help, and it ended up costing him almost $1.50 a brick, he figured out, to chisel off all that. Well, that's the difference between bound and unbound vitamin C. You can have vitamin C, Arceola C, and what happens is that, but it's not available for immediate use. The body has to do things to be able to use it. It uses up other materials, minerals, and enzymes to accomplish the goal, in the sweat like you had to do for that Acme brick. Okay, The Unbound is like the Acme Bic that's fresh off the crate. It goes in there, it latches on to the trash and takes it out. Vitamin C is water soluble. You can take 5 grams of vitamin C, and anything you don't use passes into the stool. Okay, no challenges there. Okay, trash man, great idea, John. Thanks. Needed that. Maybe I didn't need that. What's that got to do with Nikola Tesla? What's that got to do with? Okay, good question. I'm glad you asked. The body has damaged tissue, stored toxins, a myriad of difficulties and buildups that challenge the flow of blood and oxygen to the tissue, and the fact that we have other toxins that are stored in the tissue. Sometimes those cause us, the body, if it's a bacteriological difficulty, the body sends a bunch of, it's like that old Lost in Space, the Will Robinson, intruder, the robot starts flinging his arms. Robinson, intruder, warning, intruder, and he starts flailing his arms. And they send a bunch of these little bouncers to go get it, white blood cells. They begin to surround it. Hold it, lockdown, containment. They create a containment. And that's that little pustule, that little acne that goes around the challenge that's there, the bacteria or the intruder. And it keeps building up this pustule until it's dissolved or oxidized, metabolized, the intruder, okay? Now, certain intruders can't be metabolized, like heavy metals. Now, I'm not talking about a rock band in the 60s in Berkeley. We're talking things that include lead, titanium, tungsten. There's a myriad of toxic metals what happens is the buildup in itself can be toxic of anything. There's therapies like chelation therapy that they just take all the minerals out of the body, and then you have to take time to build them up after you're done, after you do that chelation therapy. Any mineral that you can find on the periodic chart, almost every single element on the periodic chart you can find somewhere in the human body. It in itself isn't toxic. It's the point with which you begin to accumulate those. What happens is that the body's normal capacity to deal with toxins as a child is much better than us that are over 23. It's murder when you turn 23. Imagine how that's going to be when you get to 24. The body's resources are used up doing a lot of other things that can be extremely challenging. And what happens is as we get older, we do more damage to our body. Things don't work quite as well, so the body's basic resources are used taking out the trash or storing it. Some people, you'll find out that if we can reduce the heavy metals and the other stored toxins, you'll find that the body sometimes stores that in fatty tissue, and it accumulates fatty tissue. And you can find somebody that goes through one of the therapies we're just about to address and speak to, that all of a sudden they lose 5, 10, 12, sometimes even 15 or 20 pounds, because the reason for storing that, having that fat there, is no longer there, the storage requirements, okay? So what happens is, how do we take out that trash? How do we take out the stored toxins? Okay, the electromagnetic blood is made up of all polar molecules. Polar molecules are readily affected by electromagnetic fields. Even low-strength electromagnetic fields can affect the flow of blood and bodily fluids and result in flow of blood and oxygen to the tissue. Okay, oscillating electromagnetic fields both excite the blood and the tissue. You can actually cause those heavy metals and the other stored toxins, biological too, to be stirred up back into the flow of blood and back into circulation. The challenge is getting rid of it afterward. We just talked about oxygen being the trash man and vitamin C. With a lot of water, it's very important that if you're going to stir up the toxins in the blood, that you have a way of getting rid of them very, very quickly, because you have a risk of toxic shock if there's a reason that the body has stored all of those. There's a reason they're stored in the fatty tissue or elsewhere in your body. If you're going to do these kind of therapies, the challenges can be remedied by, pure O2, which is the trash man, which you can take out a lot of the trash, taking like 5 grams of vitamin C the day before, and lots of water, staying hydrated. Drink a lot more water than you would normally drink, because we need to risk, if you're going to take out the trash, you have to have an effective means of taking it out. If you get it out of the tissue, you go do these therapies like we're about to take a look at, and some of them are incredibly fascinating. And we're going to build up through, most of it we're just using our benders here, and we're going to build up and a little stair step on how to take the toxins out of the tissue and the blood. Okay, the Tesla, when he would sit there in the classic, with the big Tesla coil, the pancake coil behind him, he used that oscillating magnetic field to pulse through his body, and not just the polar molecules, which are naturally affected by an electromagnetic field, but the heavy metals and things, they would begin to become excited, and they would come out of storage into solution in the blood. So what happens is that this was, when you see that, him thinking there was a terribly therapeutic moment, and it was a beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful thing. Most of the medical patents, most of his major work was done before 1900. There's a lot of people that have current patents. Some of the technology we see here is either preparing to be patented or may even be patented. One of it is not. They're packaging, repackaging, improving on the basic concept of what Nikola Tesla did. Most of it, strangely enough, that he understood even intuitively before 1900. And I say that intuitively, understood it intuitively, because we find Albert Einstein, in his theory of special relativity, believed and knew and intuitively understood that the theory was completely valid, understood, could see and picturize, conceptualize, and for you ladies, this is a right brain moment. He was able to totally conceptualize everything, and then we're going to get into something else there. But he could not put it on paper yet. He had not developed a vocabulary or a vernacular, a common frame of reference to discuss it with anybody else. They say that he spent a lot of time in libraries and over at the patent office just talking with others till he just developed the vocabulary and the vernacular. There's a lot of technologies that I wish I could say, I'd love to sit and talk to you about it, but if my IQ skills was 2 points lower in that particular technology, I'd be a tree or a doorknob or a cannoli or something, You have to have that vernacular. Well, Tesla understood a lot of things long before he patented them. Most of his major work was done before 1900 on a lot of it, although we see a lot of it getting patented afterward. And Albert Einstein's a classic example of it. He knew it worked. He could see. He conceptualized it. Mileva was the mathematician, his wife, and he ended up gracing her with all the proceeds of the Nobel Prize to reward her for her contribution. He didn't take any of it because she basically helped get him over the math, okay? But he conceptualized it long before she filled in that blank on that. So women, yes, there are a lot of women through history that, nuclear, stand back. Wow. Behind every, and I promise you, there's an old saying in the Air Force, actually in the U.S. military, and I've already got the smile here. Any man can make colonel, but it takes a good wife to make a general. Now, a lot of us, respectfully, we're mental midgets, and if our consideration to our wives' skills IQ is 2 points lower, we'd be like a brick or a rock, pet rock or something. A lot of us, after that have made general, not myself, but a lot of men that have made general, had a good marriage and threw it away. Just because they're now single doesn't mean they didn't have a good wife. Okay. Actually, anybody who knows me will tell you I married up. I have a wife that's far more precious, especially than I ever worked or deserved. Nikola Tesla didn't have quite the benefits of that, but he somehow managed to come through. But I was saying that mostly because women, don't undercut yourself, your technology, your possibilities, and your capabilities. Just because somebody wears pants instead of a skirt, It has nothing to do with being intelligent. What happens here is that after generations of improvements on the packaging technology, I'm finding out that a lot of women are contributing to those improvements that make it readily available out in the marketplace. Is it the majority or the minority? I don't know anything about that. Tesla's basic concept was that he conceptualized was that if you can excite the tissue, work on the flow of blood and oxygen to the dermal and subdermal tissues, with that flow of oxygen and blood there, the healing increases, the trash gets taken out, things go, the world begins to spin. The basic form of that technology starts at the mechanical level, basic massage therapy. And strangely enough, some people say, well, that doesn't look like a Tesla coil to me, John. That looks like almost like a gurney with a hole in the middle so you can lay your face through it. The concept of taking care of the tissue and doing the job that the tissue needs is still identically the same. Okay, what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to bring up Ronan, and he's going to discuss a little bit about, where's Ronan? Oh, okay, here he is. This is like a Ed McMahon moment. I get to be Ed McMahon because here's Ronan, and Ronan is one of our vendors that testing 1, 2, 3 I have had the honor and the pleasure of testing his technology. He actually works through massage therapy for a repeatable massage that has some longevity to it, that does a permanent change, or at least affects the situation, the permanence of your situation at that time. Here's Ronan.
Good morning, everybody. I'm just so excited because I just found out with this article that you see on the screen, and we can make some more copies, that actually what I'm using now for quite a few years, this device right here, is actually, and you see it in the picture, is actually a device that was invented a long time ago, over 100 years ago, by Nikola Tesla. And he had, I'm so excited because I even didn't know that until yesterday or today, that I have, without knowing that I have the same vision about the possibility of this instrument. Now, primarily what I'm using it right now is for aligning the structure of the body. That's the structure is the foundation. That's where everything starts. So my specialty, which is called Atlas Evolution. Atlas is the first cervical vertebra that the head sits on, and that most people alive today have this vertebra kind of out of place. And for reasons which, because of time, I'm not going to get into it right now. But that being out of place causes a pressure on the spinal cord right at the level where it hooks up to the brainstem, which is the most important neurointersection in the body. So that tweak can cause many ailments, physical and even mental, emotional. I'm watching how you guys sit. Just sitting like you sit already will push your discs out. So how many of you spend quite a bit of time in front of your computer? Most of you, right? Now, most people don't know how to sit in front of the computer. And I'm sure most of you will agree with me that after you sit a long time in front of your computer, you don't feel that well, because you all stretch out like that, and your head is like that, and your spine is not straight. So I have a solution for that. And also I teach people a new way to sit in front of the computer. But the basic of the therapy really is that mechanical therapy, which is an oscillation, percussion type movement that I can apply on the soft tissue, and it will free it up. So if we're talking, if John was talking about toxins and calcification, which is our main problem. Calcification is what causes aging and what causes our body not to function very well. And so it's very simple. We apply that on the area where the calcifications is, where the toxins are, where the cancer is, whatever it is there, and break it up mechanically. And it really works very well. My treatment has been focusing on freeing up the soft tissue, so all the atlas, and I'm focused also on the coccyx, the tailbone, which is the lowest end of the spinal cord, and creating space so everything can come to the correct place. So people are taller after the treatment, posture is way better, range of motion from side to side and up and down is way better, and of course brain function is better, all of those, and mood is better. So, but this is only a start. I have that vision for a long time, and I'm so excited because now when I encourage you to read this article, now that when I read this article, that the vision, Nikola Tesla's vision was that this instrument can be used for so many other ailments, especially digestive issues, you know, any kind of heart problems, any kind of circulation problems. And even he said, this is the best thing that there are more men here than women, I suppose, but he can say that this can be used for the beautification of women by applying it. And I watch the people that I treat, they really look beautiful, or more beautiful after the treatment. They have a certain glow, and the wrinkles are gone out just because circulation is going on. So the idea is to have that circulation. My purpose of talking here also is that I'm the medical person. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine. I've been doing this treatment now for 5 years, and I'm excited to bring it out to the world and teach other practitioners how to do that. But I need somebody to join me and have me, this particular instrument I got in Switzerland. It's well made, very expensive. So I'm looking for someone to joint venture with me, and so we can manufacture this instrument much cheaper and have it available in mass quantities. Nikola Tesla believed that this instrument should be in every household so people can treat themselves for different ailments, and they don't need to use all these drugs and all these toxins that they are putting more into their body. And because this simple mechanical tool can really help us get rid of toxins. So if there's anybody here or anybody that knows anyone that is interested, I have a huge plan, and I will also have some ideas. I'm not the engineer, but I know what works, and I have some ideas how to improve that instrument, that device that I have here. I have, some of you saw me, I have a booth there or a table in the lobby, and I welcome anybody that's interested to come and talk to me about it. And if you want also to experience the treatments, treatments are available through this whole conference. And thank you very much for this short, and I hope to see you in person in the lobby. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Ronan. Now, Gene Strickland. Let's see, where's Gene? Okay, looking for Gene. Let's see, search for Forrest Gump or Gene Gump or Gene Strickland. Okay, because we're going to stay on a really tight schedule right now. Okay, we're good. Now, Nancy Batchelder, come on up, Nancy. Here's Nancy, and she's going to demonstrate another type of plasma therapy that I have personally tried. I walked up with problems with my shoulder, my legs, and minutes later, the challenges were gone. Here's Nancy.
Well, I have to say that this morning while I was having breakfast and thinking I was going to have a leisurely day, I got a call and they said, well, you're speaking in 30 minutes. And I actually didn't come here with a presentation. I was coming here to see the show. And however, I have been a researcher in alternative energy and alternative medicine probably for over 45 years, and alternative energy for about 30 years. I grew up in an inventing family, so I started off young. And anyway, I happened to recently have worked with an inventor, and there's some very exciting news. I do have something to say. This inventor was actually a consortium of inventors were working in quantum communication, and by rather accidentally, they discovered a phenomenon. They were working with a plasma, a quantum resonance plasma, very, very highly technical device. And they were able to put things within this plasma like a diamond with inclusions. And within very short order, those inclusions disappeared. They were able to get diamonds that were rejects from a jeweler, like maybe a 2-carat diamond with a very significant inclusions. And within a few minutes, those inclusions vanished. And we took before and afters, and this was documented by the jeweler who took, I guess, special photography to be able to identify that that was in fact the same jewel that they did. And then very serendipitously, other phenomena started showing up. Like one of the researchers had had a frozen shoulder for about 8 years. They'd fallen off of a roof and damaged their shoulder, and it was completely frozen. Oh boy, okay. And he had moved near the large beam, and the beam grabbed him, and within 2 seconds, his shoulder was completely fixed. Well, this device, which I have here, appears to sense the difference between the biofield and the organizing field of the body and the departure from the manifestation, and actually cause it to be restored, because this is in fact a quantum communication in the body. We have quantum communication, so it's no mystery that they accidentally stumbled across this phenomena while researching quantum communication, because the field, like if you were to lose an arm, we now have information that with extracellular matrix you can regenerate the missing part of the body, but it's the communication with the field. The field has all of the information, because when you have the regeneration occur, it doesn't get a little finger in the middle and grow big, it just completely grows out. So I'm going to show you this. This is a very small device. The original large field produced such a sudden change that it was extremely painful. So we have a very small unit that we developed for the purpose of...
Okay, I'll hold the mic for you.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to plug this in. I hope this... We're hearing the field. Now there is something that you'd see similar to a violet ray machine. I've collected many violet ray machines, and you put it on, you can see the field change. Now, what's interesting is we had a top neurologist, we tried it on him, and he noticed that his handwriting improved about 300% in a matter of 10 minutes. For order that happen, it would have to be the communication, the intracellular communication between the brain and the rest of the body that would cause something. It's a blue beam, but you notice it becomes pink upon contact with a biofield. So the interesting thing is, if you were to put this where an old injury was, it would find the injury and lock, It would lock with the fields. Remember last night? And it will find the place where the fields are distorted and cause the information from the higher, the morphogenic field, to be downloaded into the system until the manifestation of the field, the form is corrected to the field. And this is really very exciting information. So I'll be out in the lobby for anyone. Are we up yet? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, don't want to touch this, not with that on. Nancy Batchelder, thank you. And now we're going to stay on a very aggressive, we're going to leave the lights off now for the rest of the time, but we're going to stay on a very aggressive schedule. Leave them off, Vernon. Okay, and our next Thomas Stone, Dr. Thomas Stone, will be coming up on quantum science and optimum energy peak and performance. He's using a different type of Tesla technology. Dr. Stone. Here you are, and actually, if you need to, you can hang that. If you want to, we can just put that right in here, or you can hold it.
Oh, I can hang on to it. Thank you very much, John. Welcome, everyone. I really appreciate being here. This is my first time at this type of event, and I've noticed something very different at this type of event. And my wife, and I appreciate what John said about anyone can be a colonel, but to be a general, you have to have a good woman behind you. My good woman, Rosemary, is out at our table, and she definitely is a big reason why I've been so productive at writing so many books in the short time that we've been married. But I've noticed something very unique about the type of people at this event versus all the other shows that we do all around the world. And that's that the people are unique. All of you are so unique. The vast majority of you possess something that the vast majority of the world has lost: common sense. You know? and that's really important, because John made mention of the fact that that we live in an environment today where we're affected by so many negative energies. And my specialty, of course, coming out of a surgical background into a holistic background, is whole food, the live energy of food. But I've been using Tesla technology for 30 years. And most of you have, probably without realizing it, beginning with tachyon. But the type of technology that we use, is Tesla's technology that is proprietary high heat infusion of the 6, the 8, and the 13 scalar fields into innate objects, starting with a quantum pendant made from lava rock. The lava rock itself possesses a lot of energy. It's got a natural scalar field about it because it comes from the bowels of the earth. It has 76 minerals, which are uniquely and proprietarily isolated and then regrouped together and bonded according with their companion. Every mineral has a companion. Like every man has a companion, supposed to be. Nikola Tesla was an exception to the rule, but he was a genius that didn't need a companion. He lived a celibate life. But I need my companion. and one of the things that we find that this lava rock also possesses, because it comes from a very unique volcano, it possesses the perfect low Earth radiation that annihilates all cancer cells, 0.025, according to the doctors that I've worked with, the scientists, and I'm not a physicist or a scientist, but I employ in my life companionship to a lot of these brilliant thinkers to figure the stuff out that I can't figure out. And what they tell me is that the combination of the 0.025 radiation, the 76 minerals, the natural scalar field, and the high heat infused 6, 8, and 13 frequencies, which add up to 9, is just absolutely incredible at bringing balance and harmony to the body. Now, science is proven, and it is amazing that not just Tesla's science has been hidden from the vast majority of the world. That's why the world doesn't have common sense. But a lot of science pertaining to scalar energy that Nikola Tesla brought to the world has been hidden. For instance, back in the 50s, there was some very intense studies done on cancer tumors at the University of Spain in Madrid, and all of these studies were conclusive, just like the studies today are conclusive that cell phones are a leading cause of disease in the human physiology and body chemistry. But the tests in Madrid were conclusive that scalar energy annihilated all of the cancer tumors. But the studies were never advanced to humans. These studies were done on animals. I love animal studies because animals don't care. There's no marketing plan involved here. There's no literature. There's no science. Animals don't care. It's going to work or it doesn't work. Well, that science was hid from the world. Well, we've revisited that, and we're doing double-blind studies at a hospital that we're partnership with in Tijuana, Mexico, and we're finding that using the scalar energy infused in these items, in the pendant and the bracelet and the water flask and the drinking water, are doing exactly like the studies done back in the 50s at Madrid University. Annihilating tumors, but not curing anything. We don't use the cure word. Simply reverting the unhealthy cells back to the state they were in prior to when they were happy and healthy. Because every cell, every atom has a memory. And John's back up here, so that means that my time's done. I appreciate the opportunity, John. Thank you very much. And God is really blessing what you're putting together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stone. All right, another one of our fabulous exhibitors out there. Now I have another gentleman, Clayton. We're going to give him 5 minutes. He doesn't have a presentation. He's just going to speak to it directly here. Clayton Nolte.
Thank you. I just wanted to say a few words. I represent a product that I developed called structured water units, biophoton units that provide health and well-being pretty much instantaneously. And what the good doctor was just talking about, this is an energy that everybody here is talking about. It's the energy of nature, and it will bring upon us, all of us, a perfect, let's say, step up to what we're truly meant to be. Structured water's destiny, when basically water, when it's freed to be what it's meant to be, is to bring man back to what his destiny is, to fulfill it. And I just wanted you guys to know that this technology is growing. I've met with so many remarkable people here that have ideas and, let's say, possibilities for me to expand my technology much further than what it already is. But we're providing units that you can place on your home, you can place on your shower, under the sink, garden, and they absolutely change the electromagnetic energy of their surroundings. We have video, we have studies that have been conducted all around the world of the field effect of pure nature. 1 cubic centimeter of structured water has a field effect of 1,000 feet in all directions. And that field effect right now, starting the 1st of September, we're starting a study in India where we're going to use just the field effect of structured water, 50 miles wide, 150 miles long. And all are going to be there'll be tubes placed every 500 feet just with water in them. And the outcome is going to be remarkable. It'll affect the world and how food is produced all around the world. Anyway, I'm not going to take up any more time. I just wanted you guys to know that technology, I mean, it is phenomenal. Things are happening, and the people that are here to bring it about. Thank you.
Okay, next, Aaron. Aaron, where are you? Did I see you in the darkness over there, Aaron? Where are you? Okay, here's Aaron. Okay, we talked about some of the high-frequency electromagnetic fields that Tesla worked with. Aaron's taken this a step farther. He has developed a device that not only has one specific frequency, not two, but multiples. And what Aaron does is he works on multiple levels, on multiple areas, from head to toe, come on up, Aaron, to work with you as quickly as possible in a shorter period of time, and you will be fascinated at the phenomenal piece of technology that Aaron has. Aaron Goldhart.
Thank you, John. Quantum informational biophysics. What we are doing is we're merging the science and the spirituality of humans because our potential is multidimensional. In that multidimensional facet, we think, we feel, we have a physical body. So basically, we have all the components and we use them every day called subtle energy. Now, subtle energy is how we live. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't be here. So this is termed a subtle energy activation system. And according to Dr. Swanson, who is the premier expert, he's studied the torsion field for 20 years of the Russian studies, who have been involved for 50 years. The definition is when you take electrons and as they're spinning, you have an irreversible process that occurs. And in that irreversible process, that means that the residual is the torsion field. Okay? My fault. Okay, that's okay. So the reason why the lights create torsion field is because we have a yin and a yang response. Now, we all have that within us. We were all born of two parents, male and female. We all have an interstitial fluid system that has a negative and a positive polarity in the cells. So as a result, what we're addressing is those principles that we innately have. And by doing that, it helps raise the voltage, not just on a physical level, meaning in the cells that have negative millivolts, which we normally live in about negative 20 to negative 30. If they go too far down, which means to the positive side, we're sick, and we may have disease and pain. If we have higher millivolts, we stay out of that status. So consequently, the key is putting in voltage into the cells if you're looking at it from a physical level, so that way you can maintain homeostasis. So the frequencies that come out of the tubes is what creates that. There are modified custom Tesla coils inside each of the bases. And they also contain crystals, and those crystals help magnify and stabilize the energy. So Dr. Swanson, we have worked with him on numerous occasions, working with water studies as well as other human studies to determine these torsion fields. So that's very important. And why is that? Because a torsion field has propensities without time or space. So that means when using the units, a person can derive a, Now notice, he's turning on this unit here, but you're seeing lights light up over here, and this one's not even turned on. Okay? What you're seeing here are the glow of the neon lights. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. This is the male interface, or the yang. And what it does is it creates a field approximately 30 feet. So if you're where I am, I'm getting it. I don't have to be merged into it. We use two because we are able to lay down. See, sitting and standing like I'm doing, I'm conscious, I'm in the beta state, I'm creating explanation, but I'm not creating as much consciousness until I lay down. So we put the white unit at the head, we put the black unit at the feet, because the male projects, the female receives, and those energies allow us to create a balanced closed system. So, okay, so you have that on. So basically, what we see in cellular activity is when a person comes in with a degenerative condition, where you have a lot of rouleauing, where you see it in dark field, you'll see a separation of the cells. And that separation means that the cells can individually apply themselves to where they need to go for self-healing, because these don't cure or heal anything. We can't make that claim, but we can tell you that they basically charge you up like a battery, just like you do with your cell phone. If you had a car that had a battery that was low, what would happen is you'd have to recharge it to get it to start. You wouldn't throw your car out. So when we have low voltage, we can amp that up by usage of this for a therapy, but when we close our eyes, we go into an alpha state. Now that alpha state is where we dream, where we do therapies such as hypnosis. It's where we make decisions. We do it every night. So consequently, we're real good at it. When we go into that realm, you can make new decisions. And in those new decisions means you become self-empowered. By being self-empowered means you really have your freedom to make choices by intention. And that is what our original founders who created the modern array, which we have 17 tubes, started in 1994, and we've continued that improvement. But it was with the express use for intention. So that means you direct the energy for what you want to attract into your life magnetically, as well as through your heart and soul. You notice that this unit over here has a taller tube, and it's pink. Being pink we were helped by a divine love mother out of Washington, D.C., who is a planetary divine love mother who works with humanity evolvement through the heart. Because we have so much going on with our data that we're overloaded. So by connecting to our soul, we created frequencies that would help the mind slow down and help the heart open up. So as a result, we have a special ensemble which is purposefully taking one out of balance to the ethereal side. Whereas the unit over here on the with the white box is for balanced harmonic grounding. So you have basically a choice. What does a person's principal mission here on this earth to do? And we have a way of supporting that energetically. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight of the propensities that we have in a multidimensional system for us as multidimensional beings. And by the way, these work on 2-year-olds to 85-year-olds to help walk or to help someone stay out of a nursing home. So it's pretty good.
Thank you, Aaron Goldhart. All right. Okay. In keeping with our very, very busy schedule, we're going to move right along here, and we'll actually let Aaron's equipment run for a few moments there with his permission. And now I'd like to introduce to you somebody that we all know and love, someone who's very common to our hearts, somebody that has spent much of his life promoting the work of Nikola Tesla, rarely ever takes a salary, but near and dear to all of our hearts, our President, Steve Ellswick.
Thank you, John. First of all, I'd love to thank everyone who's here today. Without you, we could not do this. I'd like to thank every vendor that has a table out there and is bringing a new invention, and I would encourage everyone to go check out all these tables, you know. And I'd like to thank our staff, the people on the cameras, the lighting. John, he deserves a good round of applause. This man has worked tirelessly since 2003, putting these conferences together year after year after year. The people who you see manning the tables outside, running the cameras and that, they're all volunteers. Without this, this would not happen, could not happen, you know. And I thank them from the bottom of my heart. When I was first getting started in conferences and that, there's a gentleman by the name of Dean Stonier. He had these conferences on alternative medicine and that every August and in February. I was with the Tesla Society at that time. We had our conferences on alternative energy and medicine every July. We worked back and forth together. Dean passed away in 2001, and we lost a great kindred soul here, who we are fortunate enough to be able to carry on his legend by having his DVDs of all of his conferences available. And I hope that some of you will at least get our catalog and look through it, because when I put this thing together, it was like deja vu. Every time I see a title, I remember what happened there. I remember people I met there. I remember what they talked about. It was reliving history. We do things a little bit differently. Here with Extraordinary Technology, we do offer a complete DVD set where you have every speaker in the set, every workshop, everything goes in here. And they've been offering a discount for $100 if you buy it here. And we also have a catalog. And in the catalog, we have all the books and things that we do sell in here. Now, so much for the commercial. We don't make a lot of money here. The people that you see are all volunteers. Every penny we get just about goes back in to rebuilding this place. And I know that times are tough out there. And I would like to encourage everyone to go out and maybe purchase something from somebody, be it a book or a magazine, $1, $2, whatever you can do. It really helps everybody out there. I know the value of $1. I'm sure everyone here remembers 911. Who doesn't? You know, but 911 did not just impact those people in New York. It affected this entire country. A lot of people didn't realize it, but a lot of pension checks were cut in those buildings that went down in 911. I have friends who had to go back to work because they lost their pensions, because it disappeared in a puff of smoke. 911 marked probably the lowest point of my life because I lost everything. I was running a company called Exotic Research. We had a real problem in July when our internet provider was changing over his computers and everything. He took down my site and went in the hospital for emergency gallbladder operation. And every day during that period, I was told it'd be up the next day, the next day, the next day. This went on for weeks. And finally, the day they got that website back up, I was staring at a TV screen, watching the tail of an airplane sticking out of a building. At that point, my business was pretty well hurt bad. After the initial site come back and people realized, hey, Steve's not dead, he's still alive out there, we had the anthrax scare. I'm sure everyone remembers the anthrax scare. Well, the mail basically stopped. Money stopped coming in, the bills kept coming in. First the telephone goes, the electrical goes, and finally when the water went, we were forced to evacuate and start all over again. You know, here I am, sitting in an RV with my ex-wife, current ex-wife, and an old miner, 3 big dogs, and I decided I'm not going to be homeless. I'm not going to be a guy out in the street who just gives up. And as I'm sitting in that cab, a total serenity come over me. And I realized, hey, there's nothing anyone could take from me. there's nothing anyone could do to me anymore. I've lost it all. I am the most freest person in the world. I could do whatever I want. You know? I didn't have no responsibilities at that point. And then a voice come into my head and said, Steve, you're going to have your magazine back in a year. I barely had enough money to make it anywhere. My friend Chuck Tripp, are you out there, Chuck? There's Chuck. Chuck, bless his heart, he has worked on every vehicle I have ever owned. He showed up, didn't know what was going on. It was like divine guidance there. I had a van sitting there. The head was blown. Had a pistol the size of a thumb blown in it. Chuck went out and found me a head for $30. How many of you have ever gotten a head for a vehicle for $30? Went and ground everything down, put this vehicle back together. It's a 67 Chevy, tore it all the way down to the crankshaft. He even tried to change the crankshaft bearings, but we had been running this liquid ring in it for many years. And he couldn't put the bearings in because if he did, he'd have to shim out the whole engine. For a liquid ring, rebuilds metal. And you can get that from us too, because I'm a believer in it. If you ever need a quick ring job, put a quarter liquid ring in your engine. But anyway, Chuck appeared magically out of nowhere, and he kind of followed us up there to a place called Queen Valley, where I'm at now. In Queen Valley, we camped out on some gold mine claims there, trying to figure out, well, what's the next step? I found a guy who needed to have his dream fulfilled of building a house, and he didn't have a lot of money. And he was willing to pay me $6 an hour, you know, to do everything, you know, clean up rocks, you know, clean up the landscaping, put together forms, framing, electrical, you know. I did it all for $6 an hour, plus he let us park our RV on the lot, and he let us have free electrical and hooked us up to some water. Didn't have air conditioning, and if any of you have been in Arizona, you know, like 120 degrees, you know, piece of cake. It was like my time in the desert, the wandering years, you know. And it was a time of meditation as I'm sitting there in the hot sun, putting rocks together in a pattern, you know, on this hill for this guy. It's the most relaxed moment of my life, I would say, in some ways. And then we started, I met this guy who was doing all the block work, and he became a partner. He saw what I was doing, and I kind of explained to him, and he helped fund partially enough to get us going again. Now, we fly by the seat of our pants. When I put these conferences together, it's basically on a $0, okay? On faith. I walk in faith. You know, I pray for my blessings every day, and I feel really blessed. We were able to get this place due to the grace of God, you know. And we've had our difficulties with the space and everything here. We weren't the first in to the space, so we have to be accommodating. Next year, we're going to be here again. Okay? The same rates, the same prices. Only this time, we get the whole conference center. I hope that every one of you will return next year. I hope that every one of you will bring someone else with you. And I hope that maybe some of these speakers that you hear during this conference will be special enough for you to go out and get yourself a DVD. Because every penny you spend on those tables out in front here, basically goes back in to paying our bills here. And we still have a little bit to go here, and I do hope that you help us out. But now, why do I do this? I'm an electrical engineer. I worked for Unisys at one time. I was up to a salary of about $55,000 back in the early 80s, through the 90s. I kind of volunteered for layoff in 1994 from Unisys to help the Tesla Society fulfill this mission. And the mission is this. The world has a lot of problems. Times are tough. A dollar means a lot. I know a dollar means a lot. A quarter means a lot. Even a penny sometimes. Sure, I've had my hard times, but this gentleman over here, Paul Pantone. Paul, stand up. Now here's a man who's, if you think I lived a life of Job, this guy has lived a life of Job. They've tried to take his patents on engines that run literally on anything. We've run them on fruit juice, coffee, and everything. But Paul has somehow been surrounded by people who have not been a positive force in his life. And so a lot of things come and go. But most devastating of all is when he was wrongfully held captive for 3 years, where they tried to basically steal his patents. And there's a lot of people here in this room that has actually gone out of the way to help Paul get free. And we are so thankful to have Paul. And it kind of epitomizes the life of an inventor. Now, when you're dealing with inventors, you got to remember one thing. All this stuff is cutting edge. Some of it works, some is about to work, and then there are some outright frauds. And what you have to do is you have to go talk to these people, look at their equipment, examine it, and decide for yourself. And what we do here is we provide a platform for these new technologies. There's a lot of problems out there. There's a lot of healing that needs to be done. This planet is sick. And maybe a picture speaks 1,000 words, but our mission can be encapsulated most best in song form by my very special friend, Leah. I'm Michael Jackson, by the way. And thank you all for coming, and I hope you'll be here again, and I hope you enjoy the entire conference. And if you have any complaints or any problems, come and see me, and we'll get it straightened out. Thank you so much.